Bobo, a little panda with soft black and white fur, lived in a beautiful forest filled with tall trees, sparkling rivers, and the sweet scent of flowers. The forest was a magical place where the birds sang songs every morning and the sun filtered through the leaves, casting playful shadows on the ground. Bobo loved to explore the forest, always finding new places to visit and new friends to meet. Every day, he would walk through the woods, play near the river, and enjoy the peaceful sounds of nature. One bright and sunny afternoon, Bobo decided to venture farther than usual. He had spotted a bright butterfly fluttering by, and before he realized it, he was chasing it through the forest. The butterfly led him down winding paths, through thick bushes, and over tiny streams. Bobo laughed with joy as he ran, but suddenly he stopped and looked around. The trees seemed unfamiliar, and the sounds of the forest were different. He turned back to find the butterfly, but it was gone. When he tried to retrace his steps, he realized that the forest around him had changed completely. The path he had been following was nowhere to be found. Bobo's heart started to race. He had never been this deep in the forest before. How did I get here? He wondered. Panic began to rise in his chest, but he quickly calmed himself. I can do this, Bobo told himself. I just need to be brave. He took a deep breath, stood tall, and decided that he would find his way back home. He wasn't sure which direction to go in, but he promised himself to keep moving forward and not give up. The journey ahead seemed long, but Bobo was determined. As Bobo began walking deeper into the forest, he felt a bit lonely. The trees around him were tall and thick, and there was no sign of the familiar landmarks he knew from home. Just as he was starting to feel down, a small, colorful creature fluttered above him. It was a bird with the body of a squirrel, and it looked both curious and friendly. The little creature perched on a branch and looked down at Bobo. Hello there. You look a bit lost, the squirrel bird chirped in a soft voice. Bobo looked up at the strange creature and nodded. I am lost. I've wandered too far from home, and now I can't find my way back, he said, feeling a little embarrassed. The squirrel bird tilted its head, its fluffy tail twitching. Don't worry. I know these woods like the back of my wings, it said cheerfully. I can help you find your way. Just follow me, and we'll get back to safety in no time. Bobo felt relieved and grateful. He had never met a squirrel bird before, but this one seemed so kind. Thank you so much, Bobo exclaimed. Without wasting a moment, he began following the squirrel bird through the forest. The bird led the way, soaring above the trees, while Bobo walked beneath, his paws crunching on the soft forest floor. The squirrel bird would occasionally fly down to check on Bobo, making sure he was keeping up. As they walked together, the bird sang a sweet melody, filling the air with a sense of calm. Bobo couldn't help but smile. For the first time since he got lost, he felt a little less scared. The squirrel bird chirped again. You know, these woods are full of surprises. There's so much beauty here if you know where to look. Bobo looked around, starting to notice the tiny flowers blooming at the base of trees, the squirrels scurrying up and down, and the sunlight streaming through the branches above. It wasn't such a scary place after all. With his new friend by his side, Bobo started to feel more hopeful. Bobo and the squirrel bird had been walking for a while, and the air began to grow cooler. The sky, which had been clear and blue, suddenly turned grey, and a distant rumble of thunder echoed through the trees. Bobo looked up, alarmed, just as the first raindrop fell on his nose. "Uh-oh," Bobo said. "I don't like the sound of that." The rain began to fall faster, and soon the light drizzle turned into a heavy downpour. Bobo quickly shook his fur to keep it dry, but it didn't help much. The rain soaked through his thick coat, making him shiver. He looked around and realized that the forest was becoming dark and wet, and he couldn't see the path anymore. The squirrel bird, who was much lighter and faster, was unaffected by the rain. "Don't worry, Bobo," the squirrel bird called out over the sound of the storm. "I know just the place to wait out the rain." The squirrel bird led Bobo to a large ancient tree with wide branches that created a natural umbrella. Bobo followed the bird underneath the tree's canopy, and the two of them took shelter from the storm. The rain poured down in sheets, but they were safe and dry under the tree. Bobo sat down on the soft ground, sighing in relief. The squirrel bird fluffed its tail and perched on a low branch. Sometimes the rain can be a bit scary, but it's just nature's way of refreshing everything, the squirrel bird said, its voice soothing. Bobo nodded, listening to the sound of the rain hitting the leaves above them. The forest was so peaceful in this moment, and Bobo felt a bit sleepy. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the sound of the rain calm his mind. "Thank you for helping me," Bobo said softly. The squirrel bird smiled and nodded. "It's no trouble at all. The rain will stop soon, and then we'll continue on our way." They both sat in silence for a while, watching the rain taper off. The forest, which had seemed dark and mysterious, now felt calm and safe. Bobo was starting to understand that sometimes, even in difficult moments, there could be peace. When the rain finally stopped, the sky cleared and the sun peeked through the clouds. Bobo and the squirrel bird left the shelter of the tree and continued their journey. The air smelled fresh and clean, and the world seemed a little brighter after the storm. They walked along the forest path, which was now wet and slippery. As they passed a large bush, they heard a rustling sound. Out from behind the bush stepped a clever fox with a shiny red coat and sharp eyes. The fox looked at Bobo with curiosity. "Well, well, what do we have here?" "A lost little panda and a squirrel bird," the fox said with a sly grin. "You're both far from home. What brings you to this part of the forest?" Bobo felt nervous at first, but the squirrel bird quickly spoke up. "We're on our way to help Bobo get back home," the bird said confidently. The fox tilted its head. "Is that so? Well, I know this forest better than anyone, and I can help you. But the road ahead is tricky. If you follow the river, you'll get back to familiar ground. It's the safest route, but you'll need to be careful." Bobo felt a bit uncertain. The river was a long way off, and Bobo wasn't sure how to get there. But the fox's words made sense, so he decided to trust the clever creature. "Thank you," Bobo said. "We'll follow your advice." The fox smiled, showing its sharp teeth. "Good luck," the fox said as it disappeared into the woods. Bobo and the squirrel bird continued on their way, feeling a little more confident after the fox's advice. They were closer to home now, and with each step, Bobo felt the forest becoming less intimidating. He could almost feel the warmth of his home, just waiting for him to return. Would you like me to continue with the rest of the chapters in this extended format, or would you prefer any changes? Bobo and the squirrel bird continued their journey, following the fox's advice to find the river. The forest was still wet from the rain, and the ground beneath Bobo's paws was slippery, but he was determined to keep going. As they walked, they heard the sound of rushing water in the distance. The sound grew louder and louder until they came to a wide river, its waters flowing fast and strong. Bobo stopped and stared. The river was wider than any stream he had ever seen, and the water swirled dangerously around the rocks. "This is the river the fox told us about," said the squirrel bird, fluttering its wings nervously. "But how do we cross it?" Bobo stood still, watching the water. He could see the current moving quickly, and the rocks scattered throughout the river looked slippery and treacherous. He felt a bit scared, but he knew this was the path to getting home. "We'll figure it out," Bobo said with determination. The squirrel bird flew ahead, searching for a safer crossing point. It soon returned, fluttering excitedly. "I found a narrow bridge made of fallen branches," it chirped. "Follow me." The squirrel bird led the way, hopping lightly over the branches, while Bobo carefully followed. The makeshift bridge creaked under Bobo's weight, but he moved slowly, one paw at a time. The fast-moving water rushed below him, but soon they reached the other side, and Bobo breathed a sigh of relief. "That wasn't so bad," Bobo said, smiling at the squirrel bird. "But I'm glad I had you to help me." The squirrel bird grinned. "Teamwork always makes things easier." As the sun began to set, Bobo and the squirrel bird found themselves in a dense part of the forest. The trees were tall, and the shadows grew longer as night approached. Bobo yawned, feeling tired after the long journey, and the squirrel bird perched on a branch overhead. "We should find a place to rest for the night," said the squirrel bird. "We've made good progress, but tomorrow will be another long day." Bobo agreed. He had been walking all day, and his paws ached. The squirrel bird led him to a soft patch of moss beneath a tall tree. "This looks like a good spot," the squirrel bird said. "I'll keep watch while you rest." Bobo lay down on the moss, his body tired but his heart filled with hope. He closed his eyes and listened to the sounds of the night: crickets chirping, leaves rustling in the wind, and the distant hoot of an owl. It was peaceful, and soon Bobo fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. In his dream, Bobo saw his home again, the familiar sight of his mother's warm embrace, the bamboo groves where he played. He smiled in his sleep, knowing that tomorrow he would be one step closer to home. The next morning, Bobo and the squirrel bird set off early. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a golden glow over the forest. Bobo felt refreshed after a good night's rest, and his excitement grew as they moved forward. The forest seemed less intimidating now. With each step, he was getting closer to his family. After hours of walking, they reached the edge of the forest. There, standing in the clearing, was a figure Bobo recognized immediately. It was his mother, standing tall and graceful, her white fur glowing in the sunlight. Her eyes widened with joy when she saw Bobo approaching. "Bobo!" she called, rushing toward him with open arms. Bobo ran to her, his heart bursting with happiness. "Mama, I've missed you so much!" he exclaimed, jumping into her arms. She hugged him tightly, tears of relief in her eyes. "I was so worried about you," his mother said softly. "I knew you would be brave, but I couldn't stop thinking about you out there in the big forest." "I was lost at first, Mama," Bobo confessed, "but I had help from a new friend. The squirrel bird guided me, and I met a clever fox who told me about the river. I had to be brave, but now I'm here with you." His mother smiled warmly. "You've grown so much, my little one," she said. "I'm so proud of you." Bobo and his mother walked back through the forest together. The journey back was peaceful, and Bobo shared stories of his adventure with his mother. "I met so many creatures along the way," he said. "The squirrel bird was my guide, and the fox helped me find the right path. I even crossed a big river." His mother listened intently, her heart swelling with pride at her son's bravery. As they walked, Bobo noticed that the forest was not as scary as it once seemed. It was full of beauty, flowers blooming at their feet, birds singing in the trees, and the sun shining through the leaves above. The forest wasn't so vast and confusing anymore. With his mother by his side, it felt like home once again. They eventually arrived back at their cozy den, nestled in a small grove. Bobo felt a deep sense of contentment as he entered the den. "I'm home," he whispered, settling down next to his mother. Bobo spent the next few days at home, resting and reflecting on his adventure. He thought about all the lessons he had learned on his journey. First, he learned the importance of being brave, even when things seemed scary. He had faced many challenges, but each one made him stronger. He also learned the value of friendship. The squirrel bird had helped him when he was lost, and even the clever fox had offered advice when he needed it most. Bobo understood now that no matter how difficult a situation seemed, there was always help to be found. Most importantly, Bobo learned that home was not just a place, it was a feeling. It was the warmth of his mother's embrace, the familiar sights and sounds of the forest, and the love that filled his heart. No matter how far he went, home would always be where his heart belonged. One bright morning, Bobo and his mother sat together at the edge of their grove, watching the sun rise over the forest. The world was waking up around them, and Bobo felt a sense of peace that he had never known before. "I'm glad to be home, Mama," Bobo said softly, resting his head on her shoulder. "But I think I'll be ready for more adventures someday." His mother smiled and wrapped him in a gentle hug. "You'll be ready for whatever comes next, Bobo. And when you're ready to go on another journey, I'll be here, waiting for you to return." For now, though, Bobo was content. He had learned so much on his adventure, and he knew that no matter where life took him, he would always carry the lessons he had learned in his heart. With his family by his side, he felt ready to face anything the future had in store. And so, as the sun rose higher in the sky, Bobo and his mother sat together, ready to embrace the new day. knowing that no adventure was too big when you had love and courage to guide you.